we'll be talking about excretion. So now, today we're talking about excretion. So as we all know, can I proceed? Hello, can I proceed?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me about excretion? As we all know that part of the characteristics of life, or part of what makes a living thing is its ability to excrete. An excretion is just a process by which all our food substances are being broken down into smaller molecules in order for the release of energy. So we can also define excretion as a process by which organisms get rid of unwanted waste due to metabolism from the body. So in essence, what excretion entails is the process of removing unwanted waste in the body. We can see even in our surroundings, we find it very, very uncomfortable to be around death because it will be very, very disgusting seeing ourselves around death. The same way we find it uncomfortable to be around death, that is also the same way our body find it uncomfortable to be with all the unwanted waste. So what the body does is it gets rid of all this unwanted waste from the body in order to ensure good health. So that's the excretion. Now, as living thing, we excrete in different forms. We excrete in different forms. Excretion comes in different forms. It comes in liquid forms, gaseous forms, and in solid form. Now, the liquid form of excretion are water, uric acid, sweat, urine, urea, mineral salts, etc. These are the liquid form of excretion. Right, the gaseous form of excretion are carbon dioxide, oxygen, ammonia, etc. All of these are the gaseous excretion. Why? Solution of the uric acid, tannins, mucilage, colloids. This is colloids, common in plants. So all of these are being produced. So I believe you understand what excretion means now. That is the removal of unwanted waste from the body. That is the meaning of excretion. Now let's move to and there are different excretory systems. And I want us to understand something. There's a big difference between excretion and excretory system. Now, let me pinpoint the difference. Excretion is the process by which organisms get rid of unwanted waste of metabolism from the body. While excretory system are those organs in our body system that are used in the process of getting rid of unwanted waste of metabolism from the body. Hope we get the difference now. Now, Excretory system. Let's start with amoeba. The excretory system for amoeba is contractile vacuole. Contractile vacuole. Now this organelle, contractile vacuole, serve as an osmoregulator. When we say osmoregulator, it means the process of getting rid of excess water waste from the body. The process of getting rid of excess waste from the body, like water. That is the main function of the contractile vacuole. So in amoeba, it helps to get rid of unwanted water from the body of amoeba. We also have flatworms. Example, when we say flatworms, it's under the Platyhelminthes, the phylum Platyhelminthes. Now, these organisms are able to remove unwanted waste with the aid of flame cells. The flame cells in our body. We have insects. The insects are able to excrete using Malpighian tubules. It's Malpighian, not Malpighian. The H in the screen should not be there. It should be Malpighian. Malpighian tubules. The fishes, they excrete with the aid of the kidney. Amphibians also use kidney to excrete. Reptiles also use kidney to excrete. The birds, they use kidney and lungs to excrete. While mammals excrete with the aid of the kidney, skin, liver, and lungs. Kidney, skin, liver, and lungs. So mammals are able to excrete using kidney, skin, liver, and lungs. While the flowering plants excrete using stomata and lenticel. And these stomata and lenticel are just opening in the leaves of plants. There are openings in the leaves of plants, and plants are able to remove anything from their system using the stomata and the lenticels. That is that about the excretory system in different organisms. Now let's move to reproduction. We are talking about the functions of cells. What are those attributes or characteristics that cell can undergo? So part of it is excretion, which we'll get with now. Another one now is reproduction. Now, every cell can reproduce. Now, reproduction is the ability of an organism to give rise to a new individual of the same species for the continuity of life. So, talking about reproduction, it is wrong to define reproduction as the process of an organism to give birth. Some organism undergoes reproduction without giving birth. Example, flowering plants. So there are two types of reproduction. We have the asexual reproduction and the sexual reproduction. Asexual is the type of reproduction whereby new organisms are produced from single parents without the production of gametes. In asexual, just one parent will give rise to the new offspring. Now this is common among unicellular organisms. Example, amoeba. If amoeba wants to reproduce, it reproduces by the process known as binary fission, whereby the parent organism will divide into total cells. Two total cells, then we divide into two total cells, then reproduction is done. Now, in the case of asexual reproduction, the organisms that are being produced are usually very identical with the parent organism. That is, the daughter cells are usually very identical with the parent organisms. So that's kind of called clones due to the identicality between the parent organisms and the offsprings. That is that about asexual. Now, there are different forms of asexual reproduction. We have, I've mentioned binary fission, which is exhibited by amoeba. We have budding, which is exhibited by hydra. We have spore formation, which is exhibited by skunks. We have vegetative reproduction, which is exhibited by some plants. These are forms of asexual reproduction. The main forms of asexual reproduction are these aforementioned 4 forms of reproduction. Now, talking about sexual reproduction. Now, in the case of sexual reproduction, it involves the coming together of 2 gametes. The male gamete, the female gamete, coming together to form a zygote, which later develop to young offspring, is referred to as sexual reproduction. So this is the difference here. The asexual reproduction, we have one parent give rise to young one. For the sexual reproduction, we have 2 parents give rise to young ones. Another difference is that for sexual reproduction, there is totally identical with the parent. Asexual, the offspring are totally identical with the parents. And that's that about sexual and asexual. Now the difference, asexual involves 1 parent, sexual only 2 parents. For asexual, no gamete is produced. But for sexual, gamete is usually produced, whereby we have the sex gamete, the male sex gamete and the female sex gamete. For asexual reproduction, offspring are genetic. For sexual, offspring shows there's a difference. Genetic variation means there is a difference in the composition of both the offspring and the parent cell. Now, for asexual, the cell division are mitotic, but for sexual, the gametes are produced by meiotic division by mitotic division. For asexual, large number of plants are produced. Sexual, the number produced is less. So these are the areas we'll be touching tonight. You just need to understand that in the process of reproduction, sexual reproduction also have its own form. Reproduction in a bigger scale, we describe of sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction occurs. Example is conjugation. We also have fragmentation by organisms. Spirogyra, for example, sexual. So not only mammals that undergo sexual reproduction, there are some unicellular organisms reproduction. So that is that about sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. And these are the differences. So as I've said before, if we are sexual, that's why it's asexual. 1 parent gives rise to 1 organism. But for sexual, 2 parents have to come together before they produce. And usually fast compared to the process of sexual. The sexual reproduction usually takes time before the organism is being reproduced. As I've said before about gametes, I just want to recap. The gametes are not producing as. The reason is because in asexual reproduction, since it is involving only 1 parent, there's no need for gametes to be produced. So that one parent will just, is either it divide itself or the organism outgoes from one part of the parent organism, which is body, or vegetation, whereby a part of the tree. So these are ways by which asexual reproduction is being established. So in all of this process, garment is not used. There's no need for any garment, for any seed. Some flowering plants undergoes pollination, whereby they transfer seed from the anther to the stigma. Now, in this case, asexual. It is sexual because there is a transfer of garments. It is not asexual. So the pollination in plants is not asexual, it's sexual. While in sexual reproduction, garments are produced by the organism. Yes. It is these garments that come together forming a zygote. Now, from the formation of zygote, the new organism starts to grow. It grows till it becomes a complete new organism. So that is in the case of garments. Now, also, the offspring are very genetically identical to the parents. That's why the offspring are called clones. The reason is because a clone of something is like a carbon copy of something, but they are different generation. But there's a very, very big resemblance between the parent cells and the daughter cells. But comparing this with the case of sexual reproduction, the offspring for sexual reproduction, they are different. Because when you check yourself, check your brother, check your father, check your mother. Yes, there is a resemblance between all of you. But check and you realize that all of you are distinctly different. That's why I use the word distinctly. There's a distinct difference between you and your siblings. There's a distinct difference between you and your parents. Now, let me just talk about, let me just go into variation here. Now, looking at your finger, for example, the fingerprints are different. Let's use the fingerprint as an example. So there is a distinct difference between sexual reproduction and that of the parents genetically. And if we're talking of genetically, we're talking about the chemical composition in the organism as a whole. Because it is our genetic that tells us, that describe everything about us. Talking about our blood group, talking about our genotype, talking about our blood contents, talking about everything about us. So this is what is referred to as genetic variation among offspring of sexual reproduction. Another difference is that for sexual reproduction, the cell divide with the process known as mitotic. Now I want us to note something. Mitotic cell division is mainly on growth. It works mainly on growth of an organism. That is how an organism grows. That's where it's specialized. And mitotic or the cell division leads to formation of 4 daughter cells. So that's why it works mainly on the growth of an organism. how an organism multiplies. You know, if we start checking ourselves, we realize that we were not like this 5 years ago. 5 years ago, my leg wasn't like this, was not big like this. Now there's a difference. What has occurred there is mitotic cell division, which leads to the growing of the length of my leg. So this is what cell division entails, pertaining to asexual. So it's only mitotic cell division that occurs. But from sexual reproduction, both cell division occurs. Now, meiotic is first used to produce the sex gamete. That is where it's specialized. The meiotic cell division is first used to produce the sex gamete. As is the production of sperm and egg in human comes through the process known as meiotic cell division, where a parent cell will divide into daughter cells, those two daughter cells. That's why we realize that for every gamete, they are always in two forms. The female gamete is XX chromosome, while the male gamete is XY chromosome. It can't be more than two. The reason is because the division of the cell occurs in meiotic, which leads to the formation of only two daughter cells. While after the sex cells have been produced, then the coming together of the sex cell leads to the formation of a newborn, a zygote. From the zygote, then the growing of the zygote occurs through the process known as mitotic cell division. Don't forget, I said before that mitotic is just based on the growing of an organism. Now, large number of plants are produced in a very short time. Yes. In the case of asexual reproduction, large number of organisms are produced. Why? For sexual reproduction, lesser number are produced. So call it a day from here. Is there any question? We can work on the assignment here. Is there any question? Oloyede, is there any question?
No.
Okay. You understand the process of reproduction and excretion? Ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of reproduction occurs in amoeba? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Sir?
I said, what kind of reproduction occurs in amoeba? You can't hear me?
I can.
You can hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I said, what kind of reproduction occurs in amoeba?
Huh? It's sexual. It's asexual.
Exactly, it's asexual. It's asexual that occurs in amoeba. So, which type of asexual occurs in amoeba? Which type of asexual occurs in amoeba?
Okay, I'm coming. Oh my God.
It's binary fission. You get? It's binary fission.
Yes,
so the parent cell just divides into two. It divides itself into two daughter cells, and it continues like that, and like that. So it is binary fission. Do you note that? Is that noted?
Yes, sir.
Good. So let's call it a. Okay, good night. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, sir.